What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing the METEOR Wolf. So this is essentially a hybrid of a Fury setup paired with the new reworked Armagheddon. So a quick version of what they changed is essentially we have more hits, larger radius, so Armagheddon is actually a little bit more viable. And then you pair that with Hurricane that you can now cast in shapeshifting form. You have really good physical damage, fire damage, and crowd control. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It has been highly requested. Again, like all my previous build videos, I will have timestamps in the description below. If you guys want to navigate between certain segments of the video, they're there for you guys to use, so please take advantage of them. And also a quick reminder before we jump in, just want to let you guys know that if you do enjoy this YouTube content, I do stream twice a week on Twitch, so any follows on that platform would be very much appreciated. That being said, guys, let's jump in. So one important point to mention about the METEOR Wolf before I jump into the details of this build is that you really need to decide which end of the spectrum you kind of want to tailor the build. So you could go all elemental, so focusing on boosting plus skills, having like all elemental skillers, Raven Lore for more fire damage, Mage Fist, and then have a tiny bit of supplemental Fury damage. You could go the other route, pretty much entirely Fury Druid with kind of a for show sort of style points Armagheddon. That approach, I think you're kind of taking away from the pure melee aspect and then just supplementing with a little bit of tiny fire damage that doesn't really do too much. I think the other way, you just run into issues with Fire Immune. So I really do think this is a largely better balanced version. Again, you want to take kind of a down the center approach. I will do some post-editing. I'll show the difference between the new Armagheddon, but it is a lot more viable. Like, it just hits more targets, so you can actually take advantage of that 8,000-ish plus fire damage and then like that 3 to 4k physical damage. So I think if you just go kind of down the center of the road, I think that's the best approach. Sort of same with the Beastmaster video they released recently. I just think that's a better version than going pure summoning. It just seems like that's kind of like the feel that I'm getting from patch 2.4 with the Druid, excuse me. Just let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree, but I just genuinely think that extreme ends of the spectrum, other than maybe shapeshifting, just seem to be worse in general. But jumping into the attributes, this went with a max vitality approach, so 156 to equip Phoenix and a Monarch Shield. Dexterity, this should actually be 136 for Grief, but a little extra dexterity isn't horrible for melee build. Then everything else in vitality, pretty solid red split on the main hand, 85 fire, 80 lightning, 45 cold, and 45 poison. That's pretty good. Now the skill tree, again, depending on how you want to weight the build, you might want to tweak this a little bit, but this is a pretty solid foundation. I put 100 point into Oak Sage, 100 point in Heart of the Wolverine, so that's just for extra physical damage. Elemental is where things get interesting, so I essentially went 20 hard points into Armageddon, Volcano, Molten Boulder, and Firestorm. So that gives me, again, 8k fire damage, 3k physical damage, and also fire damage per second. Again, the radius is so much better that it's actually a somewhat semi-viable skill. And then I have 100 point into Hurricane. Now you might be wondering, why would you use Hurricane? It's actually really good crowd control, because that ring of like the debris is doing cool damage to slow down monsters. So even though they split this connection here, I still actually think it's worth putting 1 hard point into. Now this is where things get interesting. You can alternate back and forth between putting points into Cyclone Armor and Fissure if you want the duration of these two skills to last a little bit longer, because with the 29 and 28, hard and soft into Cyclone Armor, Fissure, this gives me 30 seconds and 28 seconds. If I didn't invest into these two skills and kind of put more into Fury, you'd be recasting them every 12 seconds. That's too tedious for me, so that's why I put points into Fissure and Cyclone Armor. And you get the added benefit of absorbing damage. You can just recast Cyclone Armor when you're in shapeshifting form. So again, making for a very tanky build. Shapeshifting is very simple. I just put 1 hard point into Lycanthropy, Werewolf, Feral Rage, Rabies, and Fury. So you could go more points into Fury for more damage, but you hit a solid breakpoint with Grief. Then I have like Grief and Phoenix and Fortitude, so I thought it made more sense to put more points in the Elemental tree. That's kind of the approach that I took. For the gear, main hand is Grief, offhand is Phoenix. You hit better breakpoints with Grief now with the new IS calculator, so hard-hitting weapon, complemented with extra ED on Phoenix and negative fire res, suits this build very well. My lords for the amulet, Fire Faceted Jalal's, Fortitude, Rakd's Mesh, you could go String of Ears if you want more DR, Ravenfrost, Dual Leech Ring, Laying of Hands, 4 Rider Boots, offhand CT and Spirit. Then I have different elemental skillers. Now I know these are 40 to life, this is a single player character file, but you could use plain skillers. The difference is I would have about 3 to 3.5k life when I shapeshift instead of the 4.5k that I have, so it doesn't change the damage output, just change how much plus life I have. And then I have different max damage attack rating small charms. an Annie, and a Druid Torch. The Mercenary is a Might Aura Affinity Merc, Fortitude, and Daryl's Visage. So get the Conviction Aura to boost the fire damage, and then also the Might to boost my physical damage. I believe I'm bordering somewhere along... It's hard to tell with the hidden damage from Grief, but it's probably about 12k physical, and then I have like the 8k fire, plus the additional physical damage from Armagheddon. And really good crowd control and survivability. So I'm going to do... I believe we're on Players 1. So Players 1 up to Chaos Sanctuary, and then I'll switch and maybe do 2 of the sealed bosses on Players 3, and then I'll do the final boss on Players 8, and then Diablo on Players 8. And you want to make sure that you cast up on the offhand, just to get the extra skills from CTA. And you basically just alternate back and forth between Feral Rage, and then you just keep your Armageddon, Hurricane, and Cyclone Armor active. This is Players 1. We'll just kind of scoot through Chaos as quickly as we can. But it's like a melee version that finally has some form of AoE. So it's kind of cool to see that, like, and this is not by any means a new build, it's just with some of the IS changes they made to shapeshifting, the fact that Armageddon drops boulders more frequently, they're actually hitting more. Couldn't previously cast Hurricane in shapeshifting form. Oops. Meant to cast Cyclone Armor there. Yeah, just recasting Armageddon and Hurricane every 12 seconds. That's too much. I think around 30 is good. I wouldn't bother investing to get it all the way up to a minute. That's probably a little overkill. Oh, that decrep is so painful. Bump it up to Players 3. Now again, you could run this in an area that has like no fire immunes, like the Drifter Cavern. Get more damage there. But I do think this is a better approach than using like the Grizz Caddy, the previous like Fire Claw setup, because at least this way we have really good physical damage for Venom Lords. You kind of say we start to slow down a little bit on Players 3. But between Hurricane slowing stuff down for us, Armageddon helping out, and if you just constantly recast Cyclone Armor too, it's like you're literally immune to this stuff. And I actually debated using an Infinity Mercenary and then just using Reaper's Toll as well, because that would boost the physical portion even higher. But I did that on the Reaper Wolf, so I thought it'd be cool to try something else again. There's so many different variations that it's hard to say one's better than the other. But as long as you keep Cyclone Armor active, you're immune to Elemental, crowd control from Hurricane, and better Armageddon. But I'm curious to know your thoughts, like if you guys think... You think they should have gone a little bit further with Armageddon, or you're actually fine with the way that it plays? I do think it's better and an improvement. And I think it complements shapeshifting a little bit better, but pure Fire Druid, I still don't... Still don't like the pure Fire Druid that much. And I'm a Druid guy, but... Okay, so we'll do the final part of the run on Players 8. So these guys won't be Players 8, but as soon as we get right to the seal, it should be P8. And this is a pretty tough measuring stick for a melee character. Like, not too many melee builds do really well in Chaos on P8. We'll see how Infector goes. Okay, we're surrounded and cursed. That's not good. Try and focus on Infector. So we definitely slowed down a little bit there on players 8 compared to like the Reaper Wolf setup for sure. Let's see how we make out against Diablo. See how much Armagheddon hits. It's not too bad. I had double essence. I'll quickly throw on legacy graphics too, just so you guys got to take a quick look. Yeah, I don't know, it's cool. Like active Cyclone armor in shapeshifting form, Hurricane, Meteor, solid damage. I think this build is definitely better than previous older versions that I made, like using Earthshifter and stuff like that. Again, it's not like it's like a B+, maybe kind of approaching on A tier, but definitely like Reaper Wolf is S tier in my opinion. But a fun variant, expensive. But I mean, hopefully we see some more stuff like this on ladder. Again, just let me know your overall thoughts. Just be honest, but don't be a dick. And if you did enjoy the video, if you could throw a like on it, that'd be awesome. And I'll catch you guys on my next video or live stream. Peace out.